Well, hello, learners. Today we want to give some feedback on the first week of the course. The first thing, Tony, to note is that we've got a veritable United Nations of people participating in this course, which is great. People from Bangladesh and India, South America, Central, Northern America, UK, Europe, Australia, Africa. So we have a range of countries, range of cultures, of people involved in this course, and of course a range of biophysical conditions. So we're looking for some really interesting discussions around issues facing people trying to get water-sensitive cities. We've also got a range of people with different professional backgrounds. We've got people who are directly involved in water systems planning and urban planning, probably 60% at this stage, although more learners will join in the coming weeks. But at the moment, about 60% have that professional background. And others who are just interested in the topic of water-sensitive cities and looking after the planet for their children and grandchildren. So again, we've talked about this. How do you pitch a course to meet both the professional people who have a technical interest, a scientific interest, and those who don't have that background? I think we've got the right balance, but our learners will no doubt tell us that. And for those who want more depth, they can always go to the recordings of the winter school that we made 18 months ago. But I thought we might discuss some of the themes that are coming out. And the first one, the big one, is the issue of resilience. And the course this week, we do talk about diversity being essential for resilience. And I know you've had a lot of experience in Australia, but also in Singapore, Asia, and Europe. How often is a lack of diversity a problem in resilience?
Well, diversity is probably just a fancy word for having options and having contingencies, and that the whole notion of resilience is really about how do we protect ourselves from significant uncertainties in the future.
Shocks.
And quite often the shocks could be shocks that directly impact on the very element that you're reliant on for your water supply or for your flood protection. So having a level of contingency would mean that we are able to respond to a variety of shocks in that sense. The best example, of course, is in water supply, and there's no question about it, that having a diversity of water sources allows us to account for and equip ourselves to be able to harness the opportunity of getting lower cost water when it's rain, but also to have the security of water supply in significant drought period by harnessing technology based on water desalination and so on. To have that diversity means that we are not held to ransom by either the cost of energy for expensive desalination or held to ransom for the lack by rainfall in rainfall harvesting. So that's a really good example in the sense that in the good years, we want to have a low-cost production of water, and in the really tough years, we're prepared to pay a higher cost but have the reliability to it. So that's a really good example. But it's not just about water supply in terms of diversity. I think that there is a whole notion of diversity of solutions for flood management. How you actually build resilience in flood management has got to do with the diversity of structural and non-structural solutions. How to build social capacity to recover from a flood, to prepare for a flood, is just as important as the structural elements that may protect you from the flood. So again, diversity is sort of talked about in that sense.
So diversity is important. What about the issue of social resilience? We don't. People immediately think of physical, biophysical, but there's also the concept of social resilience.
In fact, my sense and my experience working with many cities now is that the social resilience is quite often the foundation to resilience. You can have really sophisticated structural, technical solution, but if the society don't have the capacity to use that, then it comes to nothing. So the capacity of the social and institution in the city is what builds the foundation to resilience.
Absolutely.
You can have a diversity of water sources, but if there isn't the social learning of when to use what sources of water, again, it defeats the purpose.
So we're encouraging learners to go out and look in their community on the question of resilience and diversity, they should also be looking at how they're being supported by authorities and institutions to respond to issues in a social context.
And you know what? As you get through the different modules in this course, you soon realize that there is a very strong interplay between the social and the technical. You are very seldom find yourself in a situation whereby you have all the technology, but not all the social capital to exploit or to harness that technology. So there is a constant interplay between the two.
Another issue, so the first week is about resilience, which we've just discussed, and I think that's a response to some of the issues being raised by learners. The other thing is livability, and of course livability depends entirely on your perspective on life. Whether somebody living in Mumbai will have a different view on livability and well-being to someone living in Lyon or Kampala or Glasgow. So it's very much a personal societal situation to define livability. So we're asking learners to think about their own neighbourhood, their own city, and what livability means to them, but in the context of water. Now, for me, I might perhaps ask you in a minute, Tony, what your perspective on livability for you and your lifestyle and stage of life. But for me, I remember 50 years ago when I was a teenager, livability in water meant having a shower with a constant supply of water for long showers. You know, that was my perspective. Now, I have a different view, and it's come out of experiences to do with the Millennium Drought in Melbourne, but also my broader view on what wellbeing is about. And I give high value to being able to go for a walk with my family through parks and long waterways and know that they're healthy. I give high value to knowing that the Water Authority or Council listens to my point of view when I talk about what I need in terms of my neighbourhood. So livability is a very complex thing, and I'm looking forward to feedback from the learners on what they think about livability. But what do you think about livability in the water context, Tony?
Well, if I take a very broad perspective of livability, it's a common element to humankind, and that the notion of what we individually value as under the banner of livability is a highly dynamic situation. In a drought, perhaps having access to water reliable is a sense of livability, because it defines for us the environment that we live in.
Yep.
In a better climate situation, in a non-drought, perhaps we would be looking at livability from the quality of the water environment that we live in. But I think that the quite a lot of the research work that's been done in trying to relate water management to livability look at it as a bit of a hierarchy, in that when our fundamental needs for water are met, we would aspire to a higher level of water outcomes to define our perception of livability. And so, the same aspirations actually lies in all of us, no matter where we live. It's just that at what level are those aspirations expressed? If you're in a developing city, your concept of a livability would be having clean water, reliable water, and an environment that is not polluted where you live in. But if you do get that, you will find that you'll be looking at defining livability from quite a different perspective, in terms of that given that you have clean water, reliable water, and a clean environment, how would water now start to create that sense of identity and relationship that you have with the environment you live in? So you find that the livability would swing around from essential requirements to aspirational requirements, and it's highly dynamic in that sense. So we think that you can actually capture all the descriptions of what livability mean to us as individuals in a spectrum. And we move up and down the spectrum depending on the condition that we are in at that point in time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, I hope that gives you some feedback from us on how we're viewing these topics of resilience and livability from a personal perspective. We look forward to hearing more from you, the learners, about that. Next week, week 2, is about integrated water management, where we look at different ways of managing water systems, both structural and non-structural, regulatory, pricing, planning, and how that can contribute to the outcomes we're looking in terms of resilience and livability. So thank you very much for your involvement. We look forward to talking to you again next week. Thanks, Tony.